Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, we have spoken a lot recently about how the legal sector has traditionally been one of the slowest industries to digitise. Although I have been contacted by a few in the industry that says that reputation is slightly undeserved. So with the advancement of emerging technologies such as blockchain, I'm quickly learning that these technologies have the power to transform the legal profession as we know it. Because lawyers aren't going away, in fact we need more of them than ever. And while law firms may be hesitant to embrace new disruptive technologies, legal tech is actually going to allow them to serve more clients. And these new platforms will not only expedite legal processes, but they will also increase transparency and trust for users. And I think that message is now being delivered. So I recently came across a company called Monax, which is an open source universal blockchain platform for smart contract technology. And Monax also founded the Agreements Network, which is a decentralized contract management platform that uses smart contract technology to create, prove and operate legal agreements. And it was all built to revolutionize the way lawyers, businesses and consumers transact across the globe. So I invited Casey Kuhlman, CEO and co-founder of Monax, to discuss blockchain technology's transformation of legal functions, including the impact that it has on the field of law itself, and what prime legal digitisation trends he is noticing in 2019 and how that will help shape the future too. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Edinburgh so we can speak with Casey Kuhlman from Monax. So massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Casey Kuhlman. I'm the CEO of a company called Monax, and I'm a former lawyer myself and a technologist by habit, and we are seeking to do something very new in the legal technology space, namely building a platform that allows small and medium businesses to manage and track their contractual obligations in a digital platform.
So someone that's been in the industry, you know more than anyone that the legal sector has traditionally had one of those reputations of being one of the slowest industries to digitise. I mean, why do you think that is? And are you noticing that changing at all?
Yeah, I think that lawyers have a reputation, which personally I think is unwarranted, that they are very slow to adapt to new technologies. And if we look across other professions, I don't think it necessarily holds true that lawyers are extremely slow to adapt technology. What we see, though, on the other hand, is that legal as a business function, it sits between and across company boundaries. Namely, when you go into a contract between various companies, that contract is built to be the rules and interface between and across various companies. And so if you take that as a starting point, and then you want to say, okay, we like new technology, and so we want to digitize this function of our business, then you need to have an infrastructure layer on which to manage things that happen across company boundaries. And so our hypothesis about one of the main reasons that the legal functions of business have been in previous generations of technology unable to digitize themselves is really more from a technological capacity rather than necessarily lawyers are very slow to adapt to new technology.
And if we look at blockchain, it undoubtedly has the power to transform the legal profession as we know it. So can you tell me a little bit more about exactly what Monax is and also the kind of problems that it will solve for lawyers and what makes it unique from other solutions out there?
Sure. Just one point of clarification is that Monax itself is really focused on helping the legal function of businesses, which is not to say that helping lawyers is out of sight, out of mind for us, but we're very much focused on how to help businesses digitize their legal function. And our company has been in the blockchain space for coming on 5 years now. And what we found is that the core value proposition of what blockchains can offer in a business context is the ability to run and manage infrastructure, data infrastructure, across and between company firewalls. Namely, it's an authenticated layer that is ran by multiple companies across an ecosystem. And so if you take that value proposition at face value and you say, well, if the reason that contracts or the legal function of companies has not been digitized is because it needs this layer of an ability to be managed by multiple companies, then what we have is a really, really nice framework on which we can start to think about building digitized systems. And this is fundamentally what Monax is working on, namely the ability to manage and track obligations that have been agreed to by parties after we have a deal. And so we put those into a blockchain network called the Agreements Network. And Monax is a small business focused user interface and integration layer on top of the Agreements Network. And that enables companies to very simply and easily understand where are we within the rights and obligations that we have agreed to do.
And one question I've got to ask is, can you tell me a little bit more about your backstory and how you got where you are today here with Monax? I mean, was it created from your frustration from the problems you encountered as a lawyer, or is there something else going on there?
That had a lot to do with where we are today. My background, as I said at the very top of the show, is that I'm a lawyer by training and a technologist by habit. And I'm also one of the very few entrepreneurs that you might ever talk to that can say they ran their own law firm in Somalia. And during that time, when I was a practicing lawyer in the Horn of Africa, I was very focused on how technology could be brought to bear by myself and my clients to drive down costs and to increase certainty across a particular deal space. And I had built during that time open source software that allowed me to take templates and a set of variables and marry those two things together. This within the legal tech space is typically called document assembly software. But I was very frustrated by the idea that it seems very appealing that the computer should be able to run a contract after it is agreed, but for the reasons that I stated earlier about the fact that that contracts basically require a communal infrastructure layer in order to be effectively digitized, that didn't really exist. And when I stumbled across the very, very early ideas of smart contract compatible blockchains that add a computational layer on top of the traditional dynamics around cryptocurrency blockchains, I fell down the rabbit hole immediately because I realized that it very elegantly solved this problem of how do we move into a collaborative space to start building and operating digital contracts.
Now, Monax does seem to offer an incredible value to lawyers, but how do you attract them and get the industry to adopt these emerging technologies who have a reputation for being slow, like you said, undeserved, but actually get them to embrace it and adopt technological change? Is that a big challenge for you guys?
With lawyers, yes, it certainly is an ongoing challenge that we have to face, and and lawyers, like any profession, go where demand is, and so one of the things that we are working on is increasing understanding within small and medium businesses as to the value and ease of being able to track and manage their digital obligations. And that demand side approach helps ease some of the challenges in that just like any profession, a lawyer is going to go where their clients ask them to go. And so by increasing this understanding within the consumers of legal services as to the power of what contracts managed on a blockchain environment can really offer from a operational perspective, a back office perspective, that actually starts to unlock things as we're seeing within our sales pipeline.
Now, the Monax Platform is a relationship-centric workspace for small to medium-sized businesses and ultimately enabling its users to leverage digital contracts to control risk and also drive business systems. And it also features a ready-to-use tooling that allows businesses to model, track and visualize their contractual obligations, all in real time and in a secure environment. So if we do have anyone from a law firm listening, and I know we have a few, can you just walk them through exactly how it works or what they can expect?
Sure. Let me start first with how, for example, a tech-focused small business can leverage a platform and work my way back to how a lawyer might interact with the platform. Sure. So a tech-focused small business or a tech-focused startup, as an example, has an ability to take their existing contracts and to build a business process workflow that marries with their traditional contractual template, upload that into the platform, and then operate that by essentially pressing go and looping in their counterparties to the agreement. And then the system takes over and manages tracking of the delivery of those rights and obligations that have been modeled in that workflow over the life cycle of the particular contractual relationship. Now, how we're finding lawyers are able to interact with this platform is that lawyers have an ability to understand exactly what are the high value targets in terms of legally relevant events that we should be tracking over the life cycle of a contract. And so having lawyers bring their knowledge assets to bear in terms of building these workflows and then enabling a client space where they can offer both the traditional contractual templates that they have historically offered, along with these digital workflows that are managed and tracked within the context of the agreements network blockchain environment, enables a new suite of services on top of what traditionally lawyers have been able to offer into the market.
So do you have any use cases from your clients just to enable listeners to visualize maybe the differences between that old way of doing things and life on the blockchain with Monax?
Sure. So if we think about an enterprise-focused tech startup, often enterprise-focused tech startups have a sales process that looks something like a salesperson goes and closes a deal. Then that deal gets turned over to a set of implementation engineers who then do some early implementation. Once that early implementation is done, then the account is turned over to account management, and the account is live within that, live from a contractual perspective. The accounts receivable team can start billing the client, and the renewal triggers on the contract are based upon when we have implemented for our clients. And in traditional, in previous generations of technology, you didn't really have a way to actually track when have we completed our implementation obligations, and therefore when are we live. This then creates a challenge from when do we actually start billing perspective. And then it also creates challenges from a traditional account management function from when do we actually reach out and start to think about renewing this particular contract? Because the way a lot of contracts are written is that you have things you may have to do 60 days, 90 days, 120 days before the contract has ended. And if you don't do those things, then renewal may not be automatic, or you may have to renegotiate those things. But if you do those things, then renewal may be automatic. And so with a system like Monax, you have an ability to track that implementation has happened. And then when implementation is finished, the client of this company receives an email and says, okay, our implementation has finished, push this button to certify that you are live. And then once they do that, then we have a blockchain timestamp around the fact that this contract has actually gone live. And then we have an ability to calculate, for example, 90 days before a year after that date, that go live date, then we can track that we need to do things from a renewal perspective, and so this changes how we really think about business relationships by moving some of these high value targets or legally relevant events into a shared workspace managed by a blockchain environment, then we can really start to bring visibility around all the things that need to happen over the life cycle of this relationship.
So as someone that's working right in the heart of this industry and using technology as well, I'm curious, what are the prime legal digitization trends that you're noticing at the moment, and what are you seeing out there?
There's a whole range of things that are happening within legal tech right now. Legal technology is actually really emergent, and it's a really exciting time to be in the legal technology space. We see trends across the whole transactional pipeline. You know, we're working on digitizing things after folks have agreed to a deal, more or less. But there are a whole range of platforms that are working on digitizing all of the things that have to happen pre-deal. There are a whole range of people that are working on leveraging machine learning and AI to do triage of contracts and bring out areas of risk lawyers may want to review, which brings down the need for a lawyer to read every page of every draft that has gone back and forth between, for example, to a salesperson and a buyer. And then we see a whole range of things happening in understanding risk after we have a deal as well. And so this pipeline here, although legal tech is at the early stages of its development, if we compare it to, for example, the financial technology space, it's a very, very exciting time to be in this environment.
So what does the roadmap look like ahead for Monax? I mean, is there anything else you can share with us about your plans for 2019 and beyond and how things are going to take shape?
Yeah, we will be working really on scaling in 2019 our usage numbers, and this is going to require for us to overcome a latent idea that paper contracts are good enough, but that's a very exciting challenge that we're really happy to engage in, and then over time we will be working more on the interface that you alluded to earlier, namely how we can offer a more complete solution for law firms that may want to take their knowledge assets, package those up in a digital environment, and then offer those to a larger audience. And so we will be working over the course of the next few years on doing those things necessary to open up the ability for lawyers to get some technical leverage behind their knowledge assets.
Well, before I let you go, could I just ask that you remind anyone listening of where they can find you guys online and maybe your contact details for a member of your team, just in case anyone's got any questions?
Sure. If anyone has any questions, they can visit us at monax.io or shoot us an email. The email address is contact@monax.io.
And like I said a few moments ago, it really feels like it's an exciting time to be in legal tech at the moment. And I do love how Monax is actually aiming to transform the legal industry and how you've built this decentralized system and growing ecosystem applications. But more than anything, just a big thank you for taking the time to come and join me and tell that story today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, Neil.
As we've seen with DocuSign and other major advancements in this space, the next change is always around the corner. And Monax appears to be at the cutting edge of these changes in 2019, because the Monax platform is now available for production-level commercial use and is essentially a relationship-centric workspace for small to mid-sized businesses that enables them to leverage digital contracts and control risk, but most importantly, drive business systems. And I love how it features those ready-to-use tooling that actually enables businesses also to model, track and visualise their contractual obligations, all in real time and in a secure environment. And since its private beta launch in December 2018, the platform has successfully helped dozens of corporations and individuals with their legal contract needs. So it's certainly one to watch. But if we do have any legal eagles listening today, anywhere in the world, this is not my field of expertise, it's much more yours, and I would love to hear your thoughts about today's conversation. And I know, as always, my door is always open. I love to hear different sides of the coin, different arguments. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Twitter and Instagram is just @NeilC.Hughes. Please, I would love to hear your takeaways from today's conversation. And there really is so much going on in this space right now that it feels like an incredibly exciting time for legal tech. But if you are working in the legal industry, are you noticing an appetite for change? And is that client-led? And are lawyers changing their ways? Let me know. So a big thank you to Casey for sharing his story with us today, and of course to you crazy guys and dolls for joining me along for the ride. Let's do it all again tomorrow. So a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.